Welcome back to Incorporate, the podcast for business owners presented by the UB School of Management Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership. This is the show where we dive into real stories, strategies, and smarts behind growing a successful business. I'm your host, Susan Steffen, Executive Director of the UB Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, which we will call CEL from here on in. With me for all our podcasts is our producer, Jordan Lima, founder of Lemur Studios, where we are recording today. Today, we're talking all things digital marketing, what's working now, what's not, and how small businesses can stand out online. I'm joined by two powerhouse guests, Cassie Conroy, founder of CazMethod, a digital marketing consultancy known for helping businesses show up authentically and effectively online, and Julie Kruger, a trailblazing immigration attorney who's using TikTok not just to go viral, but to drive real engagement and results for her legal practice. Whether you're a business owner trying to find your voice online, or you just want to understand what works in a crowded digital space, you've come to the right place. So welcome to our podcast, and I would love if each of you could just share a quick overview of what you do and how digital marketing plays a role. So Julie, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm Julie Kruger, and I'm the owner of Kruger Immigration Law. We're an immigration law that helps people navigate one of the most emotional and complex journeys in their life, either coming to the United States or remaining in the United States legally. And digital marketing, and especially social media, has really allowed me to demystify the immigration process and build trust and connect with people before they ever pick up the phone to call our office. For us, it's not just about leads, it's about education and visibility and building a brand that feels human and approachable, and it really sets us apart from our competitors.
Nice. Cassie?
Awesome. So I'm Cassie Conroy. I'm the founder of CazMethod. I'm an SEO content writer and marketing strategist, and I've been doing this both in-house and as an independent consultant for about 15 years. Since I went out on my own, I have been focusing on working with businesses individually and more of a done-for-you service and helping them create a strategy to efficiently create content that demonstrates their expertise to their ideal audience in the most efficient way possible.
Nice.
I'm so glad to be here.
Awesome. Now, Cassie, I want one question for our audience, just in case. SEO, tell us what that is.
Oh, yes. I'm going to try to stay away from the acronyms. So search engine optimization, and that as in the simplest sense, it's how visible you are online. And primarily that refers to Google, but it is beyond that as well.
Okay, awesome. So, obviously everyone knows that a lot of their customers are living in the digital world and that they need to be present. What platforms or tactics, what's going well right now? What's delivering the most value for you guys or for business owners that you're working with or others that you hear about?
So for us, TikTok has been huge for me. So TikTok is just gold for reach and relatability. Short form videos breaking down topics like green card timelines or work visa myths. They really resonate with our audience. And I also love how easy TikTok is to use and how their algorithm puts your content in front of the exact people that are seeking your services.
And Julie, when you're using TikTok, you're not paying anything to do that, are you, other than your time?
Other than my time, no, I don't do any promoted content on TikTok.
Wow. Okay. It is good.
And so for my clients, it really depends. And it depends on their audience and where is their audience? Where do they like to engage with the services that you provide? So one of the big topics right now in digital marketing is, well, SEO is going away. Nobody's going to Google anymore. And that's not really true. Longer story there. But what it is bringing to the forefront is more of what we call off-page SEO, which means that you optimize your content and across the digital space. And for the individual businesses, that's really understanding where your audience is, where they like to find information and engage with you. So for some businesses like me, that's LinkedIn. For others, it's TikTok, which I think is wonderful. And, on and on. But really nailing where they are and how you can engage best with that platform.
So it sounds like the first step for a business owner is to understand where their customers are, what they're viewing, or what platforms they're using.
Absolutely.
So, Julie, in your case, you've got so much information for people that are probably dealing with the problem, and they are going to Google it. They're going to wonder, like, what do I do with my immigration status? And you can provide that, and you're finding a solid conversion rate. So like people are following your information and getting the information and then saying, yeah, I want to use this service. I want to go to them. Are you finding that?
Absolutely. I think from the viewer's perspective, it's as though they're meeting me in person, right? They're having a conversation with me. So by the time they get on the phone with me, they feel like they already know me. So building that connection is so valuable to us. And we are really able to break down that immigration process in a very understandable way for people that really makes them want to connect with us further.
So in that case, your video content really is a leader for you to introduce yourself to people. Other businesses, though, don't have that to communicate. I know of a popular, very established business that recently sold that was really big on Pinterest because they were marketing to teachers, and they found that Pinterest was their avenue, and that won't be for everyone, but for that specific audience, it is. So do you have more information? How do you determine where your audience is? What platform are they on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wish more people would ask that, because I think sometimes there's this incorrect belief that you have to be everywhere or the latest platform, but you really don't. And actually, it can work against you. So doing that audience research right at the beginning. And when I work with clients, we start with strategy. And the very first thing is really understanding that ideal customer. What are their pain points? What are their behaviors? What are their psychographics, those types of things. And that can help you sort of dial in which platforms might be best to focus on. So we just, we take it from there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I think some of the times that we've worked in different social media platforms, the platform itself has a lot of information on who uses their platform.
Absolutely.
So if you have at least some idea of maybe an age range or a certain, type of customer that you're looking to get, you might just check the information on those platforms and say, okay, maybe Facebook is more, appropriate for this, or maybe it's LinkedIn if I'm targeting, professionals or business owners or something like that. But I've noticed that they're pretty good at helping you narrow that to some extent.
Absolutely.
Somehow. So what do you see mistake-wise that business owners are making? Like, what are they doing wrong when they're trying to get their digital lives in order?
I would say the biggest thing I see is jumping right into campaigns, so to speak, in terms of whether it's using a platform or they're, going right into email marketing or what have you, before you do that background research and really understanding what your audience is looking for. And that's, I'm an old school SEO nerd, but it really does help. That data really helps you really dial in the language they use and the problems that they're looking to solve. And so when you take that, you can create a strategy. And without a strategy, you can waste a lot of time. You can be on platforms that aren't appropriate, or you can spend a lot of time creating content that doesn't resonate or meet your goals.
Yeah. How did you settle on TikTok, Julie?
So actually, I was on Facebook and already had some good content there and got some good results there. And it was actually CEL that brought the idea of using TikTok for my business to me. Through the mastery program, CEL had brought in a speaker who came and talked to us about how to use TikTok for your business. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. Why not? And just immediately found, I posted a few videos, and those early videos were bad, right? They were not good. But I immediately began to reach the people who I wanted to reach. They were liking it, they were commenting, they were sharing it, and more importantly, they were calling the office and hiring us.
Wow.
And so definitely once I saw those results, kept going with it.
Yeah. So trial and error is probably part of the normal process, right? Trying a certain platform and seeing if you get the results that you need. And then maybe starting the next one, especially if you're not spending a lot of money doing it. I mean, time is money, so there's that.
And some platforms are more geared towards that. Their algorithm is more favorable to, in your case, a consumer-based audience. Facebook in general tends to be an upward hill for most marketers. So I can see where TikTok would have less resistance there, and it's more engaging, I think. Definitely. I think that's a great idea.
Well, and I think part of the fallacy too is that there's a certain age. You know, I know it used to be like, oh, older people are on Facebook and the younger folks were on TikTok. And now it seems like that's all over the map. And, you know, with all the platforms, you just kind of have to see where your audience lives or maybe try a little bit of each and see.
A common problem I've heard is people trying to do something sort of too big too soon.
Yes.
And if you don't have a lot of followers yet, but you're spending a lot of time trying to make a video or something, it's sort of all for naught because no one's really going to see it that much unless you're doing a paid campaign or actively going to boost it. I was talking to some of the students in your Emerging Entrepreneurs program, and someone said, oh, I spent 4 hours making this video and then I put it online and like no one even saw it. And I said, yes, but the lesson there is don't spend 4 hours doing it. So making content that's quick and effective, that you can get out there quick, that's proportional to your audience size. But if you do pre-production and you plan what you're going to do, you can really cut out a lot of the edit time that you're fixing things. So putting in the thought of what your content is going to be and strategizing goes a lot farther on the back end of it.
So how do you do that? Let's talk about that a little bit, content creation, because that's always kind of a daunting task. So like, Julie, how do you figure out what your next thing is going to be? What are you going to talk about? Is it based on what's happening in the world, or is it based on pain points that people come to you with? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I wish that I could say that I had this perfect content creation calendar and this just backlog of video content for the next month available. And unfortunately, you know, I just don't, right? I'm a small business owner and I'm focused mostly on serving my clients. So for myself, I post when I have time, when I feel like I actually have something valuable to say. It often is guided by what is the big topic in immigration that day or what's in the news coming on. Or what is the pain point for my clients? You know, I really feel like I don't want to post something just to check the box that I did it or just to feed the algorithm, right? I want it to be meaningful and really serve my clients. If I come across a trend that fits our niche, then great, I might do something with it. But really my approach is being more about being intentional than being constant and consistent. For me, it's quality over quantity always.
You have I'm going to say the benefit with air quotes, but of the response to the news cycle right now. You're in immigration law, so you've got people that are wondering what the heck's going on with immigration and policy. So are you responding to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Any video I can start with breaking news, everyone, that immediately gets more views than others. So I do have the benefit of a hot topic that can kind of cut both ways. And so for myself, I do want to try to stay really focused on providing content that serves the people who actually want to hire for our services. I need to remember I'm not trying to become an influencer or a newscaster, right? And sometimes I've had videos that have gone viral, have gotten millions of views, and don't result in people picking up the phone to contact my business, right? And that's not what I'm looking for. So I really do need to remember to focus on pain points. If I'm going to talk about the news, it's because it's something that actually affects my clients.
That's huge sales advice. That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, because people do think, well, you know, I really want to get all these numbers. I want to have everyone see, but really it's more important to have the right people see and respond than it is to have a massive amount of people that aren't going to hire you.
Yeah, I would so much rather get 10,000 views and 100 calls to my office from that video than get 2 million views and 1 call.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are awesome numbers.
That is fantastic. And you're doing everything so spot on. It's exactly what I would recommend. Having that hot topic and, you know, that immediacy is something that most businesses don't have, but certainly in your case, you're really grabbing a wonderful opportunity to connect with that right audience. And I would 100% agree with you, Jordan, that big numbers don't matter. The right customers matter. One of the things that I do when I'm working with clients is I really help them narrow in on creating a calendar for so that they don't have that blank page syndrome. Because most often people are like, I don't know what to write, or I don't know what to write about. Well, we go back to that ideal customer platform, and what are the pain points, what is your expertise, what does the data tell us they're asking when you, because you can actually find out what people are asking when they go to search engines, and use that, plug it into a content calendar so that you have that to create. I have what I call the just one topic process, and you start with one long form piece of content. Usually it's a blog. I recommend that because it's so flexible, but it could be something other, like a podcast, for example. And then you publish that once a month on one topic, and that topic is your topic for the month. And then you repurpose that long form piece of content in different ways for your social media, for your email. And what it allows you to do is get the most mileage out of that one piece of really high quality content in a way that's going to provide value to your audience.
Yeah. Well, and I think most businesses, obviously they're all experts in something.
Yeah.
And so thinking about how that expertise plays to their customer base can lead to whether it's a long form content or a podcast or what we're doing. And then hopefully making some good commentary and extending the dialogue, because in the end, right, it's comments, it's likes, it's folks, it's picking up the phone and hopefully calling the office. But I know I did, for me, I should be better about posting. I'm not in that consistent content calendar. But what will happen typically is things bubble up, right? I'll talk to 10 different business owners and the same thing comes up. And I'm like, everybody must be wondering about this, or there must be something that you could put out there that would have some value to it. And then what's really affirming is then when people jump on that and say, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Or, I was talking to someone, I had done a post about how, especially when times are tough, people forget about trying to get additional business from their current customers rather than always looking for new customers, which is, we all know, is much harder. And somebody just came up to me the other day and she said, oh my gosh, that post you made on LinkedIn just changed everything. You were absolutely right. I did this whole campaign. I get this new, and I was like, thank you. Okay, that was wonderful. So sometimes it's comes to you organically, but I know sometimes the plan can be, circulating around events in the news or around, whether it's for us Small Business Month or something that would be a natural fit for what it is that your business does. But it's kind of interesting to see some of our CEL businesses really tend to do a good job of their content and then bringing it to a broader audience, like Jordan over here,
We may have a plan.
Wax poetic on all things video, right?
Well, and I find that AI actually has become something that's really helped me, get over that sort of blank page syndrome that you've talked about. Really gives me a starting place to generate content ideas, or, if I can write a script and then it can take it. Sometimes the language that I use is too legal or too high level, right? And I can take that and put it into ChatGPT and have this rewrite it at a high school level language. My audience is oftentimes English might be their second or third language, right? And so if I use legal terms they might not understand, those can really use that to kind of break it down and more simply for them.
So are you going to, let's say, whether it's ChatGPT or Copilot or something like that, with an idea saying, I'd like to do a post about this? Or are you saying, is it actually suggesting what to post about? Like, is it looking at what's happening in the world newspapers or whatever it can pull from? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so I use ChatGPT actually from, I took Tony DeSimone's class from CEL on how to use ChatGPT and AI in general for your business. And so one of the things that he talked about was people first, people last. And so I've really taken that to heart. I go to ChatGPT with an idea, and then ChatGPT expands on it for me. And then I take that expanded idea and I bring it back to my voice and what I want to say. So that's how I usually use it.
That's awesome.
Well, that episode is out now. I was listening to it this morning, and I was having some AI adventures last night, and one thing that resonated to me from that episode was the thought that if it's not something that you've already done before, you're sort of at the will of the AI. So it's kind of hard to take something you've never done before and just trust AI to do it. But stuff that you already know how to do that you want to simplify or speed up in a major way, AI can be extremely valuable to you to just generate ideas, get stuff on paper. But if you don't know what you're talking about, you can leave yourself susceptible to AI being potentially wrong or saying something you wouldn't normally say. So that was a great episode. I'm glad you brought that up.
What are you seeing, Cassie, from your clients using AI or suggesting, or do you not like it?
It's kind of across the board. I was listening to it this morning as well, that episode with Tony, and I 100% agree with his philosophy of people first, people last, because what I see in my world is people just wanting them to do it all for them. Mm-hmm. They want blog posts completely written by AI. Please don't do that, because it's not you.
Right.
And you are the expert in your field, and it's you that has to make that connection with your audience. And so really going in, using it as a tool to go in and, create that outline maybe, and then you fill it in. Or I use it a lot in my work, both my individual business and for my clients, for editing and formatting and the tone and things like that, and making sure I'm in alignment. But again, that goes back to, I know what it's supposed to look like. So, I know you have to understand the concepts first. I think when it comes to search engine optimization, that's probably one of the biggest messages too, is you have to understand the concepts first before you use it, because a lot of, you could get incorrect information from AI, just like you could anything else. So that's what I'd like to see people using it for that way, because otherwise it can lead you down a path where maybe it's saving you some time, but in the end, it's not helping you.
Right.
With AI, could you be getting dated information too? I know it was at one point, the databases that they were trained on were only, from 2 years past and on. So that would be leaving out 2 years of innovation. I think that's changed because you can have it like scan documents, you can have it scan websites and stuff like that. But are there situations where people could be getting like, make sure all your meta tags on your website are right, but that's like 10-year-old information?
Absolutely, especially in the SEO space, because things like keyword research, that's always changing, it's always updating. And I may be misquoting this, but there was some research I looked at. I think it's still ChatGPT, the free version. I think that's still 2 years behind. So you don't want to be using that for data-driven information. It can be useful for many things. That's probably not one. To be cautious.
Are there SEO techniques that were dated that could now be penalizing to you by algorithms?
The best practices are still pretty tried and true. Things that have never been very effective, but still you hear a lot about it in social media, et cetera, is, just really getting more backlinks and really getting all of the, putting all the put more keywords in your content. Those are all very outdated and were never effective anyway, so don't do those. But the tried and true of really creating solid content that speaks to your audience and that it's properly formatted, and you follow the on-page SEO best practices of your header tags and your meta descriptions and your title tags, and then you do the technical SEO, so you're mindful of load speed and mobile optimization. That's probably the biggest, is the mobile responsive view of your work, and go from there. Those guidelines really haven't changed. The algorithm will fluctuate, but the tactics are still pretty solid.
It's almost like it's important to engage with an expert on these matters before you proceed.
Yeah, I know somebody. Yeah.
Julie, I have an offbeat question that I just thought of when Cassie was talking. How often do you as a business owner look at your stuff? Not from the content creation, but like, do you go try to Google your business or find your forms on a mobile phone? Like, is that something that you do?
I do it very regularly. Yeah, I absolutely like to Google a business. I like to monitor, obviously I monitor our reviews really carefully. I monitor our TikTok account very carefully, all of the comments on them. I moderate them as well. I think it's really important to stay on top of the what is out there about your business. Yeah.
I just had a conversation with a business owner yesterday who was doing a presentation with us, and while presenting, I was looking up the business and I said, hey, do you know you're not coming up for this, this, or this? And I thought, that's something that maybe we all need to remember to do is try searching for whatever it is you sell and see where you come up and what comes up. Because sometimes, I know one of my pet peeves for businesses, I don't know if you guys experience this, but there'll be some great online content, but then you go to the contact us and you fill out a form and then you never hear from them. And you're like, well, why did you have a contact us form if you weren't going to respond to it? Or something goes to a dead web page, a link on their site goes to somewhere and it says website doesn't exist or something. So I feel like one of the easiest things business owners can do to show up online is see how they actually show up online now from their customer perspective. Well, that's one of the things I see. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, I guess, Julie, I want to talk about TikTok a little bit more. When you started doing it, and you said that the videos at the beginning were horrible or weren't great. How do you know that? Like, what kind of mistakes did you make early on, and what did you learn from them? Like, what kind of steps could you save a business owner listening?
Yeah, so when I go back and look at those early videos, actually, one thing that really stands out is the sound quality in them. And, I've got a super loud fan on in the background, and it's hard to hear me speak, right? I don't have, or the camera quality isn't good. So I've made some really tiny investments, right? I don't have a ton of skill as, a production engineer or something like that. So I do it within what I can handle. But now I've got a good light that I can turn on. I've got a microphone that attaches to my phone. I'm using a tripod instead of just propping it up against my computer. And those tiny changes have really made a huge difference in the quality of the content. I also started out without scripting my content, because that's what I did on Facebook. I would just turn on the camera and just go. And that worked for that moment. Now I plan a script. And as I said, I write the script. I use ChatGPT to make it more engaging, to simplify the language, to maybe add a little urgency. I focus a lot on my hook to the video. My first 1 to 3 seconds you only really get on TikTok 1 to 3 seconds to engage someone or before they swipe past your video. And so I focus a lot on that and just trying to really hook in the viewer. And that has made a huge difference in the content.
That's super interesting.
That's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
And we, as a video vendor, we've got a lot of people that there's still this dated thing where you used to start with like a logo splash for the first 3 seconds. But if you do that now, that's all that someone sees when they scroll through a feed. So you really have to start like right in the content so people see something they like and stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that breaking news, everyone, for me, is that great hook. People want to hear. People who are into breaking news want to hear that breaking news. And that's, you can search on TikTok, you can Google, you can use ChatGPT to figure out what is a great hook for your topic. But I find that's really, really critical to have that.
So what is your style? Are you like real lighthearted about it? Are you really matter of fact and newsy? What's your main goal there?
I've tried all sorts of different things, and I like to experiment with it and see what works. And I definitely have had some huge flops. So what works best for me is a talking head style video, right? It's just me talking directly to the camera. Again, so that viewer they are building a relationship specifically with me. From their perspective, we're in a room together and I'm talking directly to them. And so when I'm talking about breaking news or immigration updates like that, it's often pretty serious, pretty focused. We have tried silly things like dances, in the office. We've tried lighthearted content. I don't know if we're not good at it or TikTok might just be like, this isn't what people want from you. The algorithm doesn't show. Those videos never do well for me. I've also had, last summer I had a production assistant come in and we did videos, with greater capability. We went outside and we did shots of Buffalo and walking in front of City Hall. And actually I've found that the simpler I keep it and the more I focus on providing the value to the viewer, those are my best content.
And what's interesting is, you are a business owner who has a certain area of expertise. So you're providing content about that expertise. And some business owners, I think, are afraid of giving away their expertise, right? Because they want people to call them. But in fact, that's the hook. That's what brings them in. And so you can picture, a plumber who's explaining something that a homeowner may be experiencing. Yeah, the risk is maybe they'll solve it themselves, but the reality is they'll probably call you when they can't or when they try and it fails. And basically for every business owner, they have expertise in some area that if they're selling to consumers, the consumers would probably start to trust them more. And I think we've seen that in the past with some businesses locally that have gotten really big, was they established that credibility through the expertise that they provided, which means they're just the natural go-to for the media outlets. They're the natural go-to for, hopefully for the customers that they want. So kudos to you, Julie. I love it.
I want to just hit on something you said earlier before too about like your tech setup, because it doesn't have to be anything super remarkable. But what you said about the microphone, super, super important to have good audio on these things, because as soon as the audio is bad, it just never gets there. And I run a film competition. I have filmmakers running around the whole city, and they're all ages, they're all everyone. So we've got super high-end people that are working on ads. We've got people that are doing their first film, and nothing kills a film like bad audio. It just is unwatchable. You can deal with like, the video is kind of dark or something, but if it doesn't sound good, it's trash. I don't know how to say it. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I did this, what I thought was this great video on immigration for same-sex couples. Like, what are the specific issues that come up in a same-sex couple immigration process? And I also wanted to showcase Buffalo at the same time. And so having that dual focus, that's where I lost, that video did terrible because I went down to the waterfront. And so there's helicopters, there's waves, there's cars driving by, and I don't have a microphone. And it was just terrible. The whole content was lost, and it just made no sense. So yeah, I learned that lesson.
So it seems very basic, and probably the microphone's pretty inexpensive to order, and something you could do that would really probably boost what Jordan would appreciate.
And I just want to make a comment on the way you described your process and, your sort of things that worked and didn't work. That authenticity is so important. You found through trial and error what works, what resonates with your audience is you just you being you, and not being the person that's dancing or what have you. If that's your thing, great, but your audience is going to know that, and I think that's phenomenal. And to Sue's point about getting to know you and your expertise. That's that know, like, trust factor. And I think particularly, I'm sure, in your field, a lot of people could be intimidated about seeing and working with an attorney, especially something as scary as immigration. But you're making that accessible, and you're sort of demystifying it. And I think that's a spectacular way of marketing yourself. Marketing, I think people think you have to be sell. But you don't when you share that expertise that you have. And I agree too, you cannot give away enough information. People will never have the level of expertise that you have to where they wouldn't want to work with you. 9 times out of 10, it's going to sell them on wanting to work with you.
Yeah.
So, Cassie, what's your advice to someone who's not like Julie? Because it's a certain personality that wants to do this, that loves this, that really engages with this type of process. I am of that personality type too. I love being a part of it. But then there's people that are business owners that are like, yeah, that's not me, but I need to have content out there. I need to have a presence. What is your advice to people that maybe don't want to be on camera or don't think they can muster up the skills to do it?
That's a great question. And I'm in this awkward field where I'm like, oh, cameras. So I can totally understand that. And it's sort of that Venn diagram between what type of content resonates best with my audience and what am I most comfortable doing and feel I can really level up in my skill set and finding that commonality. So for example, I like to write, and I do blog posts on my website, but what I love is having these conversations on LinkedIn. So I'll be just sharing my information there, and that's really comfortable for me. And so it's a matter of finding that sweet spot for you and your audience. And most business owners have a pretty good idea where their audience is, and just then looking at the tools that are available and doing some trial and error. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Just really leaning into what you do best, what you're most comfortable with, because that's going to come across as the most authentic and engaging.
I feel like that's the magic word we keep saying over and over in this episode is authentic.
100%.
And so you're trying to use social media to help people see you, not somebody that's not you. You know, to try and say, you know, whatever format it is for your information, what works for Julie wouldn't necessarily work for someone else. What works for Cassie might not work for Julie. But the idea is to try to show people who you are, not who you think they want to see, if that makes sense. But in a company, in a business as well, you know, sometimes that content provider doesn't have to be the owner, correct? I mean, there may be, if you have an owner.
A spokesperson.
Right.
It could be someone in the company that's just really good at it.
Right.
You know, we've got Tabitha here, and Tabitha likes being on camera in a way that none of us do. So, you know, we took ourselves very seriously. Our social media would be like, here's behind the scenes of this thing that we did. And it would be this cool picture with lots of tech and cameras. And then Tabitha has us running around, and I haven't done it yet, but the editors have, for, you know, the 3-minute stretch break in the middle of the day, talking about how it's important to be moving. And it's, you know, it's the side of us that we wouldn't have projected because we were, I don't know, scared of it. We didn't want to seem too silly. We didn't want to seem too weird. And we don't go real silly, but it's way sillier than I thought we ever would.
Yeah.
So we have a different person to help us with that in our company.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, it's important for an owner, you know, to stretch themselves, right? So a little bit outside your comfort zone, at least to start. But if it's something that you've tried and done and realized maybe you're just not the person, that doesn't mean it has to be you either. You could be the force behind whoever's doing it. So
yeah, that's absolutely true. I think sometimes people think, well, the CEO, they don't have the time to write that. And so that's when you might want to think about engaging, whether it's somebody on your team or somebody external who can create that content. But the key is they have to be able to capture that voice, the voice of your brand. Now, whether that's, you know, super formal, or if it's silly, or if it's somewhere in between, capture that voice, because that's the key of, you know, really showcasing that brand, regardless of who in your organization is creating the content, that's consistent.
all right. Well, we are running close on time here, so I want to leave with some action steps here. So I want you to each think about one piece of advice you could give to a small business owner who's listening to this going, sounds really good. I want to get started. What do I do now?
So from me, I think start small and start real. Again, that authenticity. I would pick one platform that your audience is on, show up once a week, answer a question or tell a story, but don't wait until you're ready. You know, clarity comes from actually just getting out there and doing it, not from overthinking. People do not expect perfection. They just want to see you.
Wonderful. I love it. And I would say create a plan. And it doesn't have to be formal. Just write it down, because you can always edit, move it around, but at least you're getting your ideas out of your head and onto paper, one topic per month, and then repurpose it through your social media, email, etc., and then grow from there.
I could chime in on that. A million things. The takeaways that jump out at me are plan ahead, know your audience, and be authentic. Those are the three that just jump out at me from our discussion here today, which I think was fantastic. So thank you both so much.
You've got that, absolutely. All right, so thanks so much to both Cassie and Julie for sharing their wisdom and their energy with us today. We've all learned a lot. Whether you're ready to dive into short-term video, whether you're going to rethink your content strategy, or just be a little more consistent with your use of your current posting platforms, I hope this episode sparks some new ideas for you. If you liked our conversation, please follow the show. Please leave us a review, share it with someone who you think could really use this content. I'm Susan Steffen. This has been the Incorporate podcast. And until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep showing up online. We'll see you next time.